name is Tim O'Brien. I am 43 years old, and the war occurred half a lifetime ago. And yet remembering makes it now, and sometimes remembering will lead it to a story, which makes it forever. That's what stories are for. Stories are for joining the past to the future. Stories are for those late hours at night when you can't remember how you got from where you were to where you are. Stories are eternity, where memory is erased, where there is nothing except for the story. Ted Lavender was a member of Alpha Company, the same company as me. He was shot in the head on his way back from peeing. He lay with his mouth open. The teeth were broken. There was a swollen black bruise underneath his left eye. The cheekbone was gone. Rat Kiley said he saw it happen. He kept saying, "Oh shit, he's dead. The guy's dead. I mean, really." It sounded so profound. Those words, "the guy's dead." The war wasn't all terror and violence, though. Like this time we enlisted this old Papa San to guide us through the minefields out in the Batanga Peninsula. He had a tightrope walker's feel for the land beneath him, its surface tension, the give or take of things. We learned to love the old man. Rat Kiley came up with a song we all chanted as we marched. "Step out of line, hit a mine. Follow the dink, you're in the pink." Once we were past the minefield, Jamie Cross, our lieutenant, hugged the old Papa San. One may wonder how I came to be in this war. All of us, I suppose, like to believe in a moral emergency we'll behave like the heroes of our youth. Bravely and forthrightly. Certainly that was my convention back in the summer of 1968. The draft notice arrived on June 17th, 1968. My mother and father were having lunch out in the kitchen. A million thoughts all at once. That I was too good for this war. Too smart, too compassionate, too everything. It couldn't happen. I was above it. At some point in mid-July, I began to think seriously of fleeing to Canada. I drove north and found a cabin along the river that separated the border of America and Canada. There I met a man who let me stay there for a fee. One day he took me out along the river and we fished. We sat there for hours. I swear he knew. All I could think about was to stare out across the river and at the border of Canada. I was so close, 20 yards at most. I couldn't make up my mind. I feared the war, but I also feared exile. I was afraid of walking away from my own life, my friends and my family, my whole history, everything that mattered to me. I feared losing the respect of my parents. I feared the law. I feared ridicule and censure. And right then I submitted. I would go to war. I would kill and maybe die, because I was embarrassed not to. I survived, but it's not a happy ending. I was a coward. I went to war. The most endearing Vietnam stories were those between the absolutely unbelievable and the mundane. Rat Kiley once told me a story about his first assignment in the mountains of Chu Lai. Mark Fossey, a young medic there, felt it was safe enough there to bring a girl, so he went off and wrote a letter. 6 weeks later, his elementary school sweetheart, Mary Ann Bell, arrived, carried in by helicopter with a resupply shipment. Mary Ann was curious and a fast learner. When 4 casualties came in, he wasn't afraid to tend to them, learning how to repair arteries and shoot morphine. After a while, Fossey suggested that Mary Ann should think about going home, but she argued that she was content staying. She began to start disappearing periodically and eventually for weeks on end. One night, Fossey was stationed over by the Special Forces hut and started to think he could hear her singing from within the hut. He lunged forward into the hut where he saw dozens of candles burning and he could hear troubled music. When Fossey finally saw Mary Ann, she was in the same outfit, purple sweater, blue jeans, and black boots, that she was wearing when she arrived weeks before. But when he approached her, he saw a necklace made of human tongues around her neck. She insisted to Fossey that what she was doing wasn't bad and that he and his sheltered camp couldn't understand Vietnam. And he learned that Mary Ann delighted in night patrols and in the fire. She had crossed over to the other side and had become part of the land. During the spring of 1956, I was in love with Linda, a beautifully fragile schoolmate who had taken to wearing a red cap everywhere. I have arranged for my parents to take us to the movies. When the movie was over, we dropped Linda off and I knew I was in love. Linda continued to wear her red cap every day, despite being taunted for it. One day, another classmate, Nick Veenhoff, pulled off the cap, revealing Linda's slowly balding head. Linda had a brain tumor and soon died. I knew she was sick, but Nick was the one who broke the news, saying my girlfriend had kicked the bucket. I went to the other funeral home with my father and marveled at how strange and unreal it was to see Linda's body. I stared for a while, saying nothing, until my father, unable to address the situation, proposed a trip to the ice cream store. In Vietnam, the soldiers devised ways to make the dead seem less dead. I remember seeing Linda's body in the funeral home, but I was upset because it didn't seem real. I picked Kurt Lemon out of a tree, and I watched Kiowa sink into the muck of Song Tre Bong, but I still dream of Linda alive in stories and in dreams. In my dreams when I was young, Linda waited for me and stayed alive, if just sometimes obscured by other things happening. In stories, the dead live.